What is up, guys? Delboy here. So as you know, Amir Khan will be fighting Terence Crawford, and that leaves Kell Brook without an opponent. Where does Kell Brook go from here? I want to discuss potential options, potential fights, and potential routes for him to go down. It has been said in recent interviews that Brook is willing to compete at welterweight or super welterweight, so there are two divisions where he could compete in. Let's start with super welterweight. As I'm sure most of you know, Kell Brook is the WBA mandatory at super welterweight. Jarrett Hurd holds that title. He also holds the IBF title at super welterweight, so Jarrett Hurd in that sense would be quite an attractive proposition because he's a unified world champion and he's a credible name. But it is a very tough fight, and it's a fight where I would imagine the majority of people will be picking Jarrett Hurd to win, so that is a risky fight. Another thing to consider, would Kell Brook have to go to America to get that fight? Potentially. I think you're going to have to pay Jarrett Hurd a lot of money to come to the UK, to be honest. But it's a good fight for Kell Brook. It is a fight he would be a big underdog in, but it's also a fight where if he did win, he would get a lot of accolades and praise. He would become a two-weight world champion and also a unified champion at super welterweight. So it's risky because it's a fight he would be the underdog in, but the rewards are pretty good. And also, I'm sure he'll get paid well for that fight. Another good option at super welterweight is Tony Harrison. Now, Tony Harrison recently won the WBC super welterweight title against Jamel Charlo in an upset victory. Maybe Matchroom, Eddie Hearn and Kell Brook see Tony Harrison as the easiest route to a world title. I think it would be a mistake to think like that because Tony Harrison is a very good boxer, but I could see Brook and Hearn viewing him as the weakest champion at 154, and maybe they would be tempted to try and get him over to the UK. Tony Harrison has actually said he would fight Kell Brook in the UK, so maybe that's a realistic proposition for Kell Brook if he's looking to become a world champion again. And it would be a good fight, you know, two really good boxers. Tony Harrison coming off the biggest win of his career, finally making good on his talent. And Brook has to prove to the world he still has something left. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a tough fight for Kell Brook, but maybe a winnable one. I do like the Tony Harrison route for Kell Brook. It is also worth mentioning Jaime Munguia at super welterweight. He is the WBO champion. That fight could be makeable because Munguia is a Golden Boy fighter now, and Golden Boy cards are shown on DAZN in the United States, as are the Matchroom cards, so maybe Hearn and Golden Boy could work together to make that fight, but I do see that as the least likely, to be quite honest, but not impossible. So at 154, I do think Kell Brook can get a title shot quite easily. You know, Jarrett Hurd and Tony Harrison have both expressed interest in fighting him, so that route could actually be the easiest to go down. If Kell Brook wants to fight at welterweight, I think it could be a bit harder to get the big fights. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kell Brook fight Jesse Vargas, to be honest. It's not really the fight I would like to see, but if Kell Brook does fight at welterweight, I think that is who we'd see him against. Jesse Vargas is with Matchroom USA, Kell Brook is with Matchroom, so technically that fight should be quite easily made, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that fight at welterweight, to be honest. It's not a super exciting fight, but it's not terrible. You know, Jesse Vargas is a top 15 welterweight, so it's an okay fight. Maybe Brook could fight him just to stay busy, and then maybe Brook can actually target the winner of Terence Crawford versus Amir Khan. Now, we all know Crawford is going to win that fight. Why not Brook go down to welterweight and look for a Crawford fight? Why not? Crawford isn't getting fights with these PBC guys, so he is starving for good opponents or big name opponents. Providing Crawford beats Khan, I'm sure he will fight Brook. It's a big fight, it's a big name, and you know, that's the type of fights Crawford is looking for. Maybe that could be one of the surprise routes for Kell Brook at welterweight. But failing that, you know, you've got other guys at welterweight. Rematches with Errol Spence and Sean Porter. I've got to be honest, I wouldn't really be that interested in either fight, but I would watch them. The Pacquiao-Broner winner, I'd watch that. A Danny Garcia fight with Kell Brook, that's a good fight. The only issue with these fights is, are the PBC willing to, risk their guy losing to a guy who isn't part of their promotion, or maybe even losing a title? Are they willing to risk that? Maybe, maybe not. Welterweight really is the PBC's division, so are they willing to risk their stranglehold on that division? Maybe not. I think welterweight in general will be a lot harder for Kell Brook to get fights. So to be honest, if I'm Kell Brook, I would probably target the Tony Harrison fight, and I still think that is a very hard fight. But as good of a boxer as Harrison is, he does have flaws. His chin isn't the best. His gas tank is also a bit suspect. Maybe that is the route to go down for Kell Brook. But the main thing is, for me as a fan, I just want to see Kell Brook move on or retire. Forget Amir Khan. Just forget him. Move on with your career and try and get other big fights. Because he's wasted far too much time being infatuated with an Amir Khan fight. And he just needs to get over it, to be quite honest. Let's move on. Go a different route. The fight's not going to happen. Deal with it. Move on. But anyway, where do you see Kell Brook going next? What route would you suggest? Peace.